Okay, thank you for coming. My name is Jesus. I'm part of the MDE team. I'm the front-end architect, and today I'm going to talk about improving observability and security in Kubernetes. Here is our proxy hand code, so feel free to ask any questions, and if you don't feel that you want to speak in English, you can write the question in Spanish, no problem. So today is all about containers. So containers nowadays are in fast. Everyone's talking about containers. Everyone likes them. And we think that Kubernetes is like de facto solution today. And if you're not using Kubernetes today, you probably will use it in like the next 5 years, right? The problem we see with that is that we need some kind of observability. We need to see our cluster. We need to see if everything's working correctly. If we have like security issues, if we have like a pod is down, we need to scale it up for some reason, right? So we find that there's no enough tooling to cover that. So we find this opportunity to create maybe a different tool to provide all that information, right? So Kubernetes was created as a CLI tool. We like CLI. CLI is magnific. But the problem with that is that you have like all this information in the terminal, and you have to be scrolling up to see the information. Say, for example, you're using the kubescale to see all the security information. And you have to scroll up because it's too much information. You're scrolling, 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 and maybe you see like an issue. And you're like, this should be not happening. Hit it again. I want to see if the error is there or not, right? So when you're working with CLI, you are working with YAML files or JSON or other files. The problem with that is you have like a 20,000 line of code of configuration, or you maybe have like 20 files. It depends on what you need. And we think that humans are better suited for visual recognition, right? If you get like 3 or 4 years old children and you show them some logos, they will identify what's that. You show like a McDonald's logo. They say, hey, McDonald's. Hey, IKEA. Because they recognize the brand. They recognize the colors and things, right? So we think that we should do something graphically to show the cluster. We have a tool called Orca that we explored last year. And tomorrow we are going to have a talk about Orca. And it's going to blow your mind because it's really, really good. And as I said, we want to see like the relation between our container services to make decisions, right? So how does MDE fit in all of this? We can see the cluster like a model, right? We can make questions like, hey, I need to know your services. I need to know what container do you have. We can do queries to their API. Kubernetes has these type concepts. You have like containers, you have services, pods, etc. So we can do reverse engineering and get our data structure with our cluster. Having that information, we can do anything we want. We can show that in a graphical way, in a textual way, tabular way, anything you need. Once you have that, you can create that projection and you can like zoom in, zoom out, you can go to details, you can do anything. We all know what Kubernetes is like, so while you look at this presentation, imagine you have like a shop, right? You say, hey, today is Black Friday. We need to scale up our pods because we expect more people, right? So you scale it up, you get you through the Black Friday, everything's good. Monday arrives and you say, hey, we should scale it down again. Wrong, because Cyber Monday. Right now, just kidding. You scale it down. So that's the beauty of Kubernetes, that you can make your services go big or not, depending on your use case. So here, the orange part is the part I want you to focus on because it's the core part of Kubernetes. Namespaces, services, deployment, pods, containers, etc. So I want to talk about 2 use cases. One is the observability. We want to see our cluster in the screen. We want to see the relationship between our services, and we want to detect failure. Hey, we have a pod, it's down. and we want to see it fast. And we can do things like dependency analysis and so on. So now my colleague is going to show you the demo. He's the team lead of the... ¿Quieres sentar, Javi?
No.
He's the team lead of this project, so he's going to show you this project, who doesn't have a name yet. So if we open the simple example, we can see a cluster. This is a small cluster, but we can see everything on the screen, right? We can zoom in, for example. You can go to the search manager, and you can see now more details. Before, you didn't see the services, the pods, the container, because this is like a more detailed projection. So if you click on search manager or any of that, you can see the information in here. Then you can be moving, you can click more. You can see here, for example, that this service is working. So have one service because we have here like a service, deployment, we have our pod, and we have our container. So we can see that this one is working. So if we go back again, please.
Yes.
Again, we have our cluster. We see that everything is green, everything's working, so we're happy. Now, if we load the broken example, now we see that on the one hand, we have some visuals that, hey, something's wrong. And then we have here, oops, sorry. We have here our error. So we have this projection. It is like the big screen. So we have all the errors, and we have concrete error. If we go to the other one, the Helm exporter, I'm going to move here again. Now that we see that is our pod, the one is broken, right? We click it, please. OK, here we see the information. We have one pod, and 0 is running. That's our problem. If we go back, please, to the main view. Now, if we click on the 3 or 4,
Yes.
Now here we say, hey, the first one is green, it's working, but the second deployment has one pod. One thing interesting to notice is that in the bottom, we only see one error, not the 2 errors, because this is a specific projection of this part of the cluster. And if we open now the last example, here's a more complex cluster. This is probably a to-do list or something. So we have all information here. We can, for example, do a zoom, please, on any area. We can see more detail. If we click on the cube system, for example.
The cube system?
Yes. If we click here, on the one hand, we see that the algorithm of the adjusting is doing the best effort, right? To make it right, but it's really complicated to make everything like you want. But you can reorganize that by hand if you want to see them in the way you need it. And that is what we have now. We have like a 3 example on top because we want you to try the tool. But you can also import a file. It will parse it down and show it on the screen. But by the end of the year, we want you to be able to connect to your cluster and have real-time information, because this right now is just a snapshot, right? It's just a fixed point of time where you can see this information, but you won't be able to connect directly to your cluster. And I think that's it for the demo. Thank you. Now, for the graphic language design, we did our due diligence, but we didn't find any real information. How do we represent a namespace? How do we represent a service deployment? There's no real iconography. You just have the Kubernetes one logo, but there's nothing else. So we try to do our best to represent each concept. So namespace is like a Windows folder, right? For services, we have this wheel. We have these traffic light symbols to represent what's wrong, what's good. We all know those colors for deployment. We have that, the shard. We have our pods. We have our containers, it's a box. So we think that this looks great. It helps you to see everything on the screen real fast. Check time, okay. So we have another use case in mind, which is security. It is really nice to see that our cluster is working, but do we have any security issue? Do we have like any hard-coded secrets? We have ingress control rules. For example, the vulnerabilities. That's a big problem because you may be having your cluster running with no vulnerability whatsoever, but now they discovered one in one package, and now you have like 10. So it doesn't matter if you are deploying a new cluster or you're updating it. The error will show up like any minute. So it is good if we can see on screen alerts saying, hey, this image is wrong, you have to update it. You have like a CPU resource limitation that you should not put it or you should put. We are talking with several companies that are helping us to shape these ideas so we can integrate that on any system. And we have a roadmap that we are focusing for this year and the next year. We are working with the observability that I shown before. We want to add more features. We want to see, for example, if our pods are stressed out or not, if we need to scale. We have visual hints, like the traffic lights, but we would like to add more information so you can recognize different types of errors without having to click. By the end of the year, we want to talk about, we have the real-time updates, so you can connect to your cluster directly, so you can have real-time updates. We are working also on the alerting and webhooks. If something's wrong, you can get a notification, Slack, Telegram, an email, or an MMS to your phone if you feel like so. And last, our big goal is the security review. And as I said, we are currently working with experts to see what fits on their needs. And lastly, I think we have everything under control with this application, except AI, of course. This shit is crazy. So it's time for questions. You have the URL there to try. You can upload your own files. We don't store any file, so everything is on your machine. So if you have any question, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you both for the presentation. Are there any questions from the audience?
Many, but we can discuss it later.
Yeah, of course.
Which one was the biggest cluster you have tried to render here? How many jobs, policies, pods? How big?
We tried one bigger than this, but I can say how big it was. Pedro, you have an idea of how big?
We still do stress testing. Still, the bigger are still to come. But we plan to address this with filtering capabilities.
Yeah, because I agree with the thing about like CLI. Sometimes it's nasty, but sometimes you have to use CLI because you have to partition this somehow because you cannot render up.
Yeah, you cannot render up. You technically can because you can zoom out as much as you want. That's not a good idea, of course. But since you have all the data structures safe, you can have as many different projections as you need. You can say, hey, I have this part that manage one part of my cluster, then you can show that up, or you can show up like the entire thing, or small things, but you can have like real time for everything if you want. And focus. We have a feature that I didn't show up that you can, you have a filter option here that you can filter out things. So that helps you say, hey, I just want to see the problems.
Yeah.
So you remove all the namespaces, everything, and you only show the 3 or 4 ones that are failing.
Yeah, the filter option hides, right now can hides the pods and containers.
Yep. So, but you can, we are going to make more options, of course. So, yep.
So, how do you deal with the synchronization of Kubernetes? Because if there's been pods or you have some crashes or something, this image should be sampling the state of the cluster somehow.
Yeah.
Do you want WebSocket or something like that, or do you have to refresh? I don't
No,
know.
no, it's going to be real time. We want this to be a digital twin of what you have, right? So everything should be real time. If you have one cluster failing, you are going to see it on a screen directly and get a notification. That's the point. If you have to refresh, it's like, what's the point, right? No, no, it's not trivial, but he's really nice at work. More questions?
Before Kubernetes became popular, Dynamics was the go-to observability solution, very expensive. But if you would, for example, use some of the graphical notations that would probably help you, there's already some instruments. What about it?
Sorry, I didn't hear. ¿Lo escuchaba, Pedro?
Yes, I will take the
Okay.
And talk about Microsoft, right? Yeah, there's tools for tooling for observability, like New Relic. There's different representation for that. It depends on what you want to focus on. Yeah, some of them focus on application and the relationships, and here we are just focusing on the meta model of Kubernetes to go from namespaces to services and to go into that. But yes, still it's true that the best representation is something still to be, native, let's say. So you can choose whatever is feels better. Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to choose one.
I don't know if you already showed the roadmap, but will you be able at some point to do the other thing around and design things for your cluster, your code, those things?
In fact, we have another tool which we will showcase tomorrow that does that, but for Docker. It's very similar, but would be an interesting use case to do that, to expand that for Kubernetes as well.
Yeah, we have the other tool that you can see tomorrow. I really recommend you to go. That's like the most advanced option of this. It's for Docker, but we have more options. So it's like you can see a bit on the future on that tool, but they are still different. Different use cases. More questions? Yes.
For getting the telemetry data from the clusters, when you really connect, what's kind of the plan there? Do you plan on doing an open telemetry collector deployment into the cluster, or how are you going to achieve dealing with more than just the static version, but getting the real-time data?
Pedro?
Yeah. Yeah, open telemetry definitely is a good starting point. And all the API that Kubernetes provides is also always at the beginning we can starting to do pooling, Danny, doing pooling everything 30 seconds, something like that, to get what's going on the cluster. And then you have some kind of WebSockets just to update on the what we have.
Thank you.
Any other question from the? I may add something. So it's very nice in this event, in this conference, that we see some mixture of presentation from academia and now from industry. And when we have a research venue like a journal or a conference, something, we have a magic questions that they always say. Has been this validated in real situation. And now that I have people from the real time, I have the very same question for you. So did you try this? Did you validate this with practitioners? Do you plan to?
We are working with big companies. For example, all these examples are provided by Pucara Dev. They are providing us the guidelines to test all these solutions. Vicente is also going to help us to show their need. They have like massive things, so that's going to be a big help. So we are now in the moment of exploring options, what we want to do, what we want to show. So now is when we are exploring those options, and it's bad to say it, but they are exciting about these options. So we think that's going to be a nice addition.